Jennifer Leaning, physician. Leaning is a professor of international health at the Harvard School of Public Health and director of the Program on Humanitarian Crises and Human Rights at the school's Francois Xavier Bagnoud Center for Health and Human Rights. A founding board member of Physicians for Human Rights, she is an authority on questions of humanitarian crises, medical ethics in emergency settings, and humanitarian law. Her work has taken her to conflict zones around the world, including Somalia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda, and the Chad-Sudan border. Shortly before this interview, Jennifer Leaning returned from a Physicians for Human Rights mission to Afghanistan, where her investigations of potential human rights abuses included visits to a prison holding Taliban forces. Question: on terrorism and how other nations view America. Jennifer Leaning: I do believe it is pretty important to try to understand that millions of people elsewhere in the world have a very different view of this country and a very different view of how it is that they can make a better life for themselves. It is important for us to understand that, and this is where I think the two links come together. If we are ever again to recreate the innocence and certainty in the future that we had just a few years ago, we are going to have to extend a sense of human security to other people elsewhere. This is the blowback about globalization. We are never going to be able to be isolated and okay. We are only going to be okay if others are more okay than they are now. Question: often a good solution for solving health-related problems and epidemics in times of crisis is to educate the people themselves. For example, teach them how to protect themselves from disease or filter water for drinking. What is being done to teach people how to help themselves in these situations? Jennifer Leaning: a key component in public health, which actually could be borrowed and expanded into virtually any social enterprise, is to educate the general public. Public health is about the health of populations, the health of large groups. It is not about the health of individuals. When you're thinking about the approach to populations, the fact is you cannot order everybody around all the time. So you will want to get some cooperation and some compliance. In addition, given the chance, human beings are going to want to protect themselves and care for the people they love, and given a slightly better chance, if they are not angry and filled with vengeance, they're going to have a more general social sense of probity and kindness. If you approach populations that way and you want to get them to do something, the fundamental strategy is education. In public health and disasters, it is turning out to be absolutely critical for those in charge of the responses and rebuilding to tell people what is going on honestly. Say when you do not know something and do your best to find out the answer, if it is a reasonable question. Tell people what it is that they can do to take charge of their lives and protect their families and friends and their community groupings. Say when you're going to come back with a new message and a new engagement so people can pack their questions as they accumulate and have faith that you're going to come back and talk with them again. Have the people who are doing this communication be a combination of leaders the people have previously trusted. Do not try to do this with a new leader. And have this public form of education linked to an expert, because not all the problems that come up in public health mode in a crisis are problems that a regular leader is going to be an expert in. Question: as a physician, what perspective or particular concerns do you bring to the conversation about how best to utilize and distribute our resources? Jennifer Leaning: the fundamental point remains that there are an unacceptable number of people dying young and an unacceptable number of people dying in childbirth. Similarly, we can see the gap in the indices around health and water and food and education and hope. The expectation that one can have a reasonable life and be secure in that life and have children and feel okay about oneself. That is not a set of expectations that large parts of the world can remotely hope to aspire to. Just realizing that differential is, first of all, the most important aspect of starting the next phase, which is, what are you going to do about it? I would submit that whether you want to be a rock musician, a physician, or a nuclear physicist, part of what someone coming out of college must be challenged to say to himself or herself is, how is this going to make the world better for all these people who have very little? I'm not speaking about another Albert Schweitzer initiative. The world is more complicated. Figuring out whether you're fitting in and keeping an edge of discomfort all the time in your mind and in your heart and in your reading and in all your interactions is, to me, an essential part of being in this world now. We have no excuse not to recognize that we are unutterably privileged, and whatever flick of fate meant that you were born here and not in many parts of the world that I am speaking about does not give you any reason to think that they matter less than you do. Do things that make what I just said seem real to you. Travel, dream, read, go to movies that are increasingly good about bringing these people home to you. And do not forget that all the sacrifice that your family has put behind you and all the work that you have done to be here, I respect it deeply as I know how hard it is to be here and succeed here, is not going to amount to anything at the end of your time when your life is shut out if you cannot also say, I did this for others as well.